I thought it was only fitting to follow up Joker's unpopular opinions with Harley Quinn. She would probably go down as a top 10 comic book character of all time, and I don't even think that is for comic book fans. I think that's for general audiences. Everything about the character has become very loved and honestly very in your face, whether we like it or not. And a lot of the comments on her unpopular opinion post goes to show that is the case. And we do have a lot of people here who don't really like that and wish Harley Quinn would go back to her roots. So with that being said, let's jump into some of your comments. So the first comment is going to be from Quag Sire Fan. I think a lot of media tries to write her as if she never was that evil, despite doing horrible things with and for Joker and a lot of continuities. I think it's nice for her to get away from him and do good, but I kind of dislike a lot of interpretations of her that gloss over how awful she is, and sometimes still is, and tries to suggest she was always an anti-hero. Yeah, there's nothing anti-hero about her. The only way Harley Quinn could ever become an anti-hero is if she went through a reformation, is if she did her time in Arkham Asylum, got her mind right, if she took the time with Batman to be rehabilitated, if you will. Any other option to bring her through that reform could potentially make her an anti-hero. She never goes through anything like that. And I'm sorry, being with Poison Ivy does not help that reform. It just helps her justify the fact that now doing evil things with someone like Poison Ivy over evil things with someone like the Joker can now solidify her spot as a real anti-hero, which does not make any sense. Harley Quinn, even before meeting the Joker and becoming the Jester, she was never someone who is empowered. She's not someone who can take control and think for herself. 100% the Joker turned her into somebody that potentially, if she never met the Joker, she would have never become that evil, that brutal. However, it happened. Just because she can strip herself away from the Joker, it does not make her any less evil because of some of the very sadistic things she had to do with the Joker and because of the Joker. If her situation is how a villain can clear as day go from villain to anti-hero, why aren't more villains doing this? Why aren't more characters saying, I'm going to kill and murder and do everything I can to as many people as I want. Oh, but the day I say I'm an anti-hero, now I can keep getting away with those actions without the threat of a hero coming after me? Dumb. Dakota Cornett. There should be a full circle in her plot that takes her from Joker's sidekick to anti-hero to hero, to then going back to being a shrink, but specifically for superheroes, villains, and some extreme victims, because now she understands more than ever. I actually think that is a solid idea. Now, how they would get around that, I'm not too sure. Because realistically, if you have done the things that Harley Quinn has done, and if you've supported a person in who has done even worse things than you, chances are you'll never see the light of day again. But I guess good thing for comic books is that it's not realistic. Maybe what you could really do to completely justify it as much as possible is Harley Quinn in her time with the Joker. I don't even want to say she didn't kill, but perhaps she did not do some of the most heinous crimes that the Joker did. Maybe, as bad as it might sound, she saw him do certain things that were just awful and disgusting, but she was so scared to stop him or do something about it because she knew what he would do to her. In a lot of ways, she's kidnapped within this relationship. She's stuck. She really does not have a way out. And she feels as if no matter what she does, the Joker will always come for her. She will never be free from his grasp, but perhaps that is how you could do it. She has been tormented by the things the Joker has done, so that when she becomes an anti-hero or a hero, or becomes a shrink for these superheroes, she now knows how to diagnose almost every problem that a superhero might have. But I think in a situation like that, Harley Quinn would have to become Harleen Quinzel again. She'd have to lose the voice. She'd have to throw away the costume. She would have to completely promise herself she will never come back even as a hero because it's too much for her. Henry Gambles. She's become overexposed to the point of being intolerable and worked better as Joker's girlfriend, not as some anti-hero. If they wanted to have her redeem herself, she'd have to stop being Harley Quinn and go back to Dr. Harleen Quinzel. Exactly what I was saying, at least with the redemption of her character. It's not that simple. The only redemption arc she could potentially have is her being an in-house therapist psychiatrist within a ward of Arkham Asylum, in which she doesn't just work there, she also has to live to ensure that she will never go back to the twisted lifestyle of Joker and Harley Quinn. Harley leaving the Joker and becoming this anti-hero was working for a little while. The biggest problem is, even after all this time that has happened, she is still mainly concerned on never falling back within the trap of the Joker. She's still concerned about being her own woman and escaping her twisted yet deep love for the Joker. She still is not free, even being with Poison Ivy. And I think a lot of people are realizing that's almost all the character has to offer. And they've made it that way, the writers. They've ensured that Harley Quinn's main focus is only going to ever be the Joker. They clearly have not done enough to move her away from that arc and do different things for her. Yeah. Nobody talks about how significant the Arkham Asylum costume was in Harley's history. It was the first costume to change the black and was her first complete stray away from the previous. It continuously gets dissed nowadays for being exploitive, which, yes, but in the game, it's clear Harley chose her uniform, as she said, and I think the character is intelligent by using her sexuality in costumes as a tool to play with the male gaze. Her character is extremely smart, and I wish they would lean into that. Over time, I have seen people somewhat complain about the way they dressed Harley Quinn in those games, and even after those games, like some of the movies and comic books that we've seen her stylized as. I don't think I've ever seen it on a level where there's been a riot with pitchforks. Although I personally think it's kind of stupid. We do have to understand the audience that comic books do cater towards. There's, of course, women who read a lot of comic books. I'm not taking that away from them. But I do believe 70 to 80% of their audience would be males. And usually they're going to be males who are in their teens, who are my age in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on. They know what guys want to see. That's why so often they tend to make their female characters so attractive. And let's also not pretend they don't make their male characters attractive too. There's a lot of comic books that do that. However, Rocksteady knew what they were doing. Batman is what we're paying for. That's what we're playing it for as well, but that is an added bonus. Also, the already seductive style that Harley Quinn has portrayed in the past, even prior to this game, it easily makes her one of the most marketable females in comic book history. Being a psychiatrist, understanding the human brain, she would be able to understand that if I dressed up like this, a lot of the attention is on me, and maybe in that way, I can direct things in certain ways that I want it to be. Maybe in the way she dresses, she can also control and command a lot of people. William Nye. Harley Quinn is a character that can only be used within the confines of Batman stories or her own solo books. Sure, it was a great decision sales-wise to put her on the Suicide Squad, but logically, Waller has no need for an incredibly unstable person, and someone who showed herself to be a loose cannon and more of a damper on the team's effectiveness during the first book they appeared within the New 52. Her inclusion on the team wouldn't make sense for me and honestly undermines the rest of the team with her overwhelming popularity. Well, I think that has been a big issue with the Suicide Squad. It has become Harley Quinn and the Suicide Squad, or Harley Quinn and a bunch of other random criminals. That would literally be the title. Sometimes having too much popularity can drown everything else around it, and I feel as if that is what Harley Quinn has done with the Suicide Squad. And you're also right in this instance, because think about it. The Suicide Squad that has to take on missions that sometimes are Justice League level threats. And yeah, we can all day make this comparison that, oh, Batman's on the Justice League. However, Batman in a lot of ways has proved that he's not a normal human. With Harley Quinn, you have someone on the Suicide Squad who says, hey, I'm bringing my gymnastics to the table. I'll hit a couple of things with my baseball bat, and I also do know how to shoot a gun from time to time. If your argument is that you need some sort of humanized character within the Suicide Squad, if you need that type of aspect, well, you already do. You have plenty of human characters who have been part of the Suicide Squad before and who could bring more to the table. And I don't necessarily just mean in abilities, but keeping the team in line to ensure that they all don't get their heads blown off. Believe it or not, being a loose cannon is probably not the best of ideas for a team like the Suicide Squad. Maybe Waller should only be using her in situations of desperate need, to the point where she has no one else at this point. But you know what? Harley Quinn sells, and for some reason Warner Brothers has this idea that the Suicide Squad needs to sell, so as long as you put Harley Quinn in there, there's a hope for them that that group will now sell. Thunder Comics. This is just my opinion, but I never really understood the hype for this character. I will say, however, I really did enjoy the Harley Quinn animated series. Now for my hot take, I always thought it would be cool if in some interpretation of the character, Harley Quinn is in a relationship with Bruce Wayne before the Joker twists her mind, because I would find it interesting to have one of Bruce's love interests succumb to the Joker's tricks. Now, to quickly start with your first part of the comment, I understand the hype of the character, at least in the sense of the general audience. She's colorful, she's poppy, she's spunky, she's a little funny. Those types of attitudes and personalities can draw people in and get people very attached. As for the Harley Quinn animated series, it's not a bad show. However, it's too much for me. I tried watching it, but I could not get past season 2. The explosiveness and insanity of the show is a little overbearing for my liking. Although your story of Harley being in a relationship with Batman is actually kind of neat, and it would make for a very interesting what if. The Joker would specifically want to do whatever he could to get under Batman's skin. Now, of course, unless the story specifically prohibits this, there's no way Joker could know that Batman is Bruce Wayne and that he's dating Harley Quinn. But just the generalized idea of it, having Harley Quinn fall within the grasp of Joker, and now Batman Bruce needs to deal with this idea that, let's just say hypothetically, the love of his life has now turned into his worst nightmare. That's huge. Now there's two comments here that I'm going to combine. One's from Damon Reynolds, who says, rest in peace to our girl, Arlene Sorkin, the first and best Harley Quinn. From the moment I heard her voice, I fell in love. There's no portrayal like hers. The other comment is from Lost Hollywood. Keeping it simple, for me personally, Tara Strong is Harley Quinn, and the Arkham games is what her character should be, in my opinion. So there did come a point where it was seamless. I could not tell the difference between Arlene and Tara. It was crazy to me that they somehow found two women who sounded nearly exactly the same as a voice of Harley Quinn, which is not the easiest voice to capture at all. I think the older Tara Strong has gotten, I think her voice has changed a little bit, but I still like it. I still enjoy it. However, the absolute utmost respect goes to Sorkin because she's the original. Without her voice, we do not have the iconic Harley Quinn voice. But Tara Strong kept it going and still to this day keeps it going, and I really appreciate that. And I'm going to agree with Hollywood here that the Arkham Harley Quinn is the absolute pinnacle version of the character. I would also throw in Batman the Animated Series. It is just by far some of the best Harley content we've ever gotten. So either one of those Harleys, you really can't go wrong. The real Killer Moth. I don't really like the Harley Quinn and Ivy pair. When I say a pair, I don't mean lovers, by the way. More just like a combination of characters. Like, yeah, it can work sometimes, but I feel like it was one of the only combinations they do with her outside of the Suicide Squad. I want to see her paired with other characters like Catwoman, Two-Face, or even someone like Scarecrow, because her only being paired with Ivy is starting to get repetitive. I get that seeing her with Ivy all the time is getting a little boring. It's come to the point where something new that comes out about the character, I have really no interest in reading or seeing because I already know it's just going to be Harley Quinn and her sidekick, Poison Ivy. And taking it from the love aspect, what are you really doing for the character here? You're really just taking her from one psychopath in the Joker and bringing her over to Poison Ivy, who might not be on the same level of crazy as the Joker, but she is just truthfully no better in mentality than some of these Batman villains. So you're just bringing her from one crazy situation to a different type of crazy situation. She's not growing. She's not really learning from anything. Now, I know Poison Ivy herself is an anti-hero. She's not as bad as she used to be in comic books. However, it's just very strange that that was their reasoning. Instead of bringing Harley to a character who could help her, let's just bring her to another villain and make both of them anti-heroes. Okay, now it's time for my unpopular opinion, and it does have to do with the Harley Ivy relationship, which I don't think is terrible by any means, but it is certainly not the direction I would go in. So the whole idea to strip Harley away from the Joker is to give her a form of a redemption arc. If you don't want to place her back in Arkham Asylum, where she will vow to stay and get better, with the hopes that one day she can come back to the world and be a better person. If that's too boring, if that is not fun to sell for a character like Harley, if you need to put her in a relationship with somebody and give her a particular story, I always thought a fantastic pair would be Jason Todd and Harley Quinn, because both Jason and Harley are two people who have been tortured and abused mentally and physically by the Joker. They are both victims of the Joker. Jason Todd going through his own extreme problems, falling to the Joker, coming back, becoming a killer. He would be able to help Harley Quinn fix her state of mind. He would be able to say, hey, I went through similar situations, maybe not exactly the same, but the idea of it is. Jason basically says, I've killed, I've done terrible things, so have you. Here's how we can work on it. Here's how we can bring you back to a land of sanity, if you will. That could be a really good relationship pairing. And if the idea is to turn her into an anti-hero, who better than an anti-hero like Jason Todd Red Hood? Also, too, if you really need to make her a member of the Bat family, if that is something that comic book writers really want to enforce, you can do that with Jason Todd being that catalyst for her. That could also bridge her story and even her relationship friendship with Batman a little bit closer. But there you go, everyone. Harley Quinn's unpopular opinions and hot takes. I swear every single time I do one of these, there's more and more comments, and I love it. This is so awesome. It's fantastic. keep them coming, guys. If you guys did not get the chance to comment on the community post, make sure to leave your unpopular opinions in the comments below here. Also, comment below other DC characters that you would want me to do unpopular opinions on. I already have the next couple loaded up, but I will put your suggestions in a list. But that is all for this video, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed it, and until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.